Hello and welcome to this edition of the Mentors Masterclass. My name is Dan Gerke and I want to welcome you to another call. I'm excited today. I'm being joined by a friend and mentor, Dwayne Klassen. He's known as the Coach for Men. He's an engaging and entertaining transformational speaker, author, coach, and entrepreneur with a passion for ancient wisdom, men's issues, and helping humanity raise the bar and play a bigger game. Dwayne's the author of a groundbreaking book, which I see on my bookshelf here right in front of me, and I can see it behind Dwayne in the background there as well. The Remarkable Man, Champions to Women, Heroes to Children, and Brothers to Each Other. Dwayne, welcome to the call. It's great to have you on.
Dan, it's a real pleasure to be on the program today. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, maybe before we jump into some questions, I'd love it if you'd share a bit of your story about the journey you've been on the last number of years, how you got into this groundbreaking work that you're doing now. You're transforming lives around the world with the Remarkable Man Project and some of your other work as well. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got where you are now.
Wow. How much time do we have?
I'll
give you the Coles version. I've been a serial entrepreneur most of my life. When I was a lad in my early teens, I ended up having a really low self-esteem, had some anxiety issues. I was one of those shy kids. And what your viewers can't really see is that I'm a tall guy. I'm 6'4". And a lot of guys, they think that, if you're really tall, well, you're naturally predisposed to be an athlete. You must have been awesome at basketball. You must have been awesome at volleyball. Well, my story wasn't quite like that. I was one of those tall, gangly kids that didn't have the coordination. I grew up so quickly that my muscles just didn't really catch up. So I was teased a lot, and I really didn't find my own until well into senior high school. So it imprinted some challenges within myself, and I went through my 20s trying to reinvent myself. I've had some great successes. I had some epic failures along the way, but my pivotal moment, I guess you could say, was about 8 years ago. I had what I call my perfect storm. In about an 18-month period, I had a successful outdoor advertising company, and I ended up manifesting some crooked partners to help me run the company. Didn't know it at the time, but we ended up going through a really nasty proxy battle. I won the company back, but it was destroyed. There was nothing left to save. And while that was happening, Dan, I had a 7-year-old son from a previous relationship. And just after his 7th birthday, I found out he wasn't mine. Yeah. So, and as this is happening, I'm in my dream relationship. I'm with my goddess. I'm with the woman I thought I would spend the rest of my life with. However, when I met her, I was at the top of my game. I had it going on. And she had waited about 12 years for a man like me to come into her world. She was very successful, doing her own thing, and she was a very strong-willed woman. So when all of this was starting to happen in my life, I lost my identity because I identified so much of who I was with what I did. This is my company. I created this thing. I built it from the ground up. And now it doesn't exist anymore. Identified so much, and of course you're a dad too, and very, very passionate about raising your kids. Well, I was a dad, and all of a sudden it's gone now. And it's a whole other story, but I really felt that who I was didn't exist anymore. And so now my fiance doesn't have the man that she once had. Now, I know she loves me, but I could feel that she was not attracted to me anymore. And it's a really sinking feeling. And for you men out there listening, I know some of you are going through this or have gone through it. So I ended up going out on my own because a lot of nastiness happened with the proxy battle, the legal battle. It got really ugly. There was some drunk dialing on their part, and it just got crazy. So I wanted to take that energy away from the family dynamic, because she was raising a couple daughters on her own, who were absolutely amazing. And so I knew it was important that we went our separate ways. But in doing so, I knew we would never get it back, what we once had. So there I was. I actually went into the friend zone with my fiance. Yuck.
Ouch.
Yeah. So I'm on my own, and I realized I got nothing left, and I'm looking for support. My sister and I are really close. She belongs to a lot of women's organizations, and a lot of the women that I hung out with, very strong, very empowered, and they were belonging to all these groups. And I'm thinking, what do guys have? What's their support mechanism? It's got to be something out there for guys. So I started looking around, and I was actually shocked about how difficult it was to find a men's support group. It was, yeah, you know what? I know a guy who knows a guy, and he knows a guy that's in a group. You should check it out. So I started doing my due diligence and went to a men's organization that was in a church basement. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. There's some great support mechanisms that are faith-based, but it just wasn't for me. I felt that the energy within the room was about guys that really wanted to hang on to their story, commiserate and just kind of get into that energy that they really didn't want to change. On the flip side, I found another group that was, a weekend, a men's retreat. And it was all about, let's get into our bravado and awesomeness and our masculine energy, and let's drum naked. And I went, really? Really? Is that what it requires for me to access that part of me? So there's these two extremes, Dan. There's the church basement, and then there's drumming naked in the forest. And I went, there's got to be a better way. So that's when the light bulb went on. And the universe just kind of spoke through to me and just said, you know what, why don't you create it yourself? And when I got this download, Dan, I actually reacted. I went, hell no, you are not going to get me to do that. I mean, pick somebody else. I mean, look at where I'm at. I am definitely not your guy. There's got to be a better person out there to do this. But it planted a seed. And I realized, Dan, that everything that I was doing at that time was ego-based. Yep, my business was, look at me, look how successful I am. And in all transparency, my relationship that I had, she was beautiful. And as much as I loved her and had this amazing family dynamic there, it was about, hey, check her out. Look how gorgeous she is. So one of my mentors, as you know, is Les Brown. And he said, one of his famous quotes is, if you're going to fall down, fall on your back, because if you can look up, you can get up. And that was the seed, because I realized that my gift and talent is in writing and speaking. The advertising thing was the distraction, pushed me away from what I'm really here for. And for the first time in my life, I really got the imprint that this was going to be the rest of my life, that this was my true calling, that everything that I have experienced and gleaned over my lifetime, this is what it was all for. So there I am going, okay, so what is this going to look like? I started writing the book, The Remarkable Man. While this was coming through, the research that I was doing on this blew my mind, because I realized that I wasn't by myself on this. What I found, Dan, was that there is a global malaise that's happening to men. Men around the world are feeling more frustrated, more challenged, more confused as to what it means to be a man in today's world than ever before. And so I knew through all the challenges that I had going on that this was it. This was what I'm here to do. I'm here to be a catalyst for change for men. And how am I going to do that? What's it going to look like? And just by impacting one man and have him show up as a champion to his woman, as a hero to his children, and connecting to his brother, not from competition or I'm better than or less than, but as true brothers, that I'm here to support you. And that's why it's really important that, within our organization, as you know, that we use a phrase that's, I've got your back. And it's not a sports euphemism. We actually mean it. Because guys are going through a heck of a lot right now, and they don't have a lot of support mechanisms out there. And I wanted to be that for those guys. So that's the kind of the condensed version. I know a little bit long-winded, but that's kind of the start of it all.
That's the catalyst. And you said it, actually, catalyst for change. And one of the things that drew me to you and your movement, I know when you first got started with the Remarkable Man Project, we had a coffee and you shared a little bit of concept was, and it was just the transparency around some of the issues that people are dealing with, men specifically are dealing with. And it was the first time I had heard things described the way you described them, and it really resonated with me. I could see myself in a lot of those scenarios, a lot of the challenges you described that men were having, and the reasons for them was something that I knew I needed to know more about. So pretty powerful that you came into my life. I certainly consider you a mentor now, and I'm happy to be associated with you and the organization. And when you say we've got your back, I've seen time and again examples of how that plays out. So kudos to you for what you've created and for the bringing the kind of people into the organization that we have at this point. So looking back, you touched on one of your mentors, Les Brown. He's certainly a mentor of mine, somebody I look up to. Hopefully going to get a chance to see him live here in May. I know he's scheduled to be here in Calgary, so I'm looking forward to that. If he's able to make it, that would be a fantastic event. Who have been some of your biggest mentors, and what role have they played over the years for you?
Well, my first one would be my dad. My dad and I, at this stage in our lives, we are closer to brothers than we are father and son. I've actually watched him evolve in his adulthood, if you will. There's a Buddhist philosophy that says we are here to choose our parents. So when there's a divine connection as to why we have the parents that we have, and as a father, you know that you're probably your biggest teachers are your children. They're teaching you patience, they're teaching you understanding, they're teaching you play, how to be a child again. And I really understood this later in life because my dad and I always remember us being close. But then when I got into my teens, there was a bit of a disconnect for a while. And then when I was an adult, we started coming back together, and we keep on coming back together. And he's always been a male role model in regards to what it could look like if a man was open-minded enough to accept different things. My dad was always willing to learn, and that's what really intrigues me about my father, is that I could show him a concept and understanding of how I see it. And instead of him being set in his ways, as many men of his generation are, that he would just be, wow, so tell me, Dwayne, what makes you, why does that land for you? What is it about it? And if I could convince him as to why I'm passionate about it, he would be, wow, I never saw it that way. Huh. And he would integrate it. My dad he now lives in a large metropolis on the West Coast, but he was a country boy, a small town boy all of his life. When my dad was living in the small town, him and his wife, she passed on, he was meditating. He was lighting his candles. He was journaling. none of his friends would ever know that this was a part of his life. You know, they think he was crazy, they think he was nuts. But regardless of the environment that he was in some ways a lot more regimented in his routine. His spiritual routine was so important to him. And for that, I've always respected that. And sometimes I think as a spiritual man that I'm not even close to where he's at. So my dad has taught me a lot, and taught me a lot through me teaching him, as him being the student, and what it took or what it takes to be open, to be understanding, to question it, and then let it sink in. So that's one. That's the main one, and I'd be remiss if Dad didn't hit the #1 category. My second mentor would be Dov Barron out of Vancouver. He knew the journey I was on when I started the Remarkable Man Project and was writing my book. And in fact, he reached out to me after a social media video that I put out there. He said, I love what you're doing. We need to talk. He invited me to one of his events in Vancouver. Loved the energy that he put out there. But he also said, he goes, Dwayne, I have a relationship program that I believe that if you took this relationship program, that you could be one of the top coaches in the world with this understanding. So I took it with a little bit of a grain of salt. I said, that's pretty bombastic in regards to, but I started hearing from other people that took the program. And while I was taking the program, and I've taken many, as you know, this program allowed me to see where I was at in my relationships. And he gave me a modality, and I'll just share this with you quickly. And the modality was that whatever relationship challenges that we're dealing with, my story in relationships was I would manifest women that had abandonment issues. Some way, somehow, their fathers all left them some way, sometime during their life, prior to them becoming adults. So their natural tendency was to fall in love, but then when they felt that connection, they would push away or they would do something to self-destruct the relationship because their story was, you're going to leave me, just like my father did to me. So all men abandon me. So instead of me being hurt, I'm going to take control and abandon you. So this is what I said. I said, yeah, the women that I manifest, they have abandonment issues. Almost like I was wearing it as a badge that, this is it. And I would come in, my story was I was a rescuer. Put the S on my chest, cape on my back, dun, 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 and I'm going to rescue the women in my world. What Dov did, though, was he said, isn't that interesting? So you attract women with abandonment issues. Well, that's because you have abandonment issues. And I went, whoa. You had me up until there. Now you're talking smack, because that's just, no, my parents stayed together. It was on. It was great. Nope, I don't have abandonment issues. I'm sorry. This is not how it's going down. And he goes, oh, yeah, I give it 24 hours and the shoe's going to drop. You just need to focus in on this. Do a meditation, whatever it was. Dan, I didn't even have to do a meditation. I would say from the moment he laid this on me within the seminar, I would say within 3 hours, I just went, oh my God. It just, the download, the access point that I had shut down opened up. It just opened up. And what it was a moment when I was 5 years old. And just a quick story. My grandfather had just passed away on my dad's side. I was only 5, so I've only seen him a couple times in my life. It wasn't like, oh my God, Grandpa's dead, boo-hoo. But Dad wasn't there. And so I'm saying, Mom, where's Daddy? So well, he's at Grandpa's funeral. Oh, okay. And I wasn't missing my dad because my dad was at camp most of the week. They were building roads. And so that wasn't the big deal. But it was the first time I inquired about what a funeral was. So I understood it now. My grandfather died, and my mom is now explaining what death is all about. And I'm kind of, ooh, okay. And I remember seeing something about death on TV, and I'm sort of connecting the dots, and that it's pretty final, and it's not good, and if they die, you never see them again. Now, my mom and my dad, they did not have a healthy relationship. They weren't violent or ignorant or whatever. They're just not connected. They just weren't connected. My sister was firstborn. My mom didn't have a strong connection with her, but she did with me. And I became her favorite, and she smothered me. So there's a moment there where she took it upon herself that I could get this child to love me even more. And what she did was she said, and I'm going to die too. So here's this mind that is just so receptive and so open to her, and just like, wow. And then she hits me with, I'm going to die too. But you know what? She gives me no context. Not when I'm Grandpa's age, not from long time from now. I get the impression that it's imminent. It's like, in the next couple of hours or tomorrow or any time, just my mom's gone. So now I latch on, and I am a mess. And that was the seed of my neurosis when it came to anxiety. Before then, precocious, awesome. I'd be jumping into everything and doing all sorts of crazy things. After that, a part of my soul just died. And so I brought that in. That's what my rescuer was. I didn't want you to die. I didn't want you to go away. So I would pull you closer. That's the rescuer. That's why I was wired that way. So back to what Dov was saying. The reason why we attract the same, and the reason why we go, oh, no way, I am not that person. Hell no. We are, but we have polar coping mechanisms. And this is what blew my mind. And the other shoe dropped. So when women would push away, I would push forward. So it's just a different way of looking at it. But because it's so different, we see it, or we don't see it. We don't see the neurosis of our partner in ourselves because it's completely different how we approach it. So Dov became my mentor, my sensei, when it came to waking me up to how to look at relationships. And he gave me some secret sauce. That man has some amazing kung fu when it comes to personal growth, self-development, and the deep inner work. So that's those would be my 2 top mentors.
And great choices they are. I know I've met your dad, and he's a great man. And Dov, I haven't had the pleasure of meeting, although I've followed his work for quite a while as well. And one of my mentors that I'm working closely with, he credits Dov as being one of his top 2 mentors as well. So there's good reason for that, obviously. The guy knows what he's talking about and is a wealth of wisdom. I was covered in chills while you were giving me that. Well, you were telling that story. I don't know what was going on, but I was getting goosebumps all over my body. So something energetically was going on there. And it's so true that we're mirrors for, what we attract into our life is just a mirror of what's going on internally, I think. And yet it's, like you said, it's hard to pick out the internal neurosis or maybe limiting beliefs that we're dealing with, that are going on inside, that are holding us back from our true potential. And that's one of the things I love about the Remarkable Man Project and the work you're doing, is that it's all about encouraging us to become our better selves. And it's not, like you say, putting the S on our chest and a cape on our back and becoming a picture of what remarkable is to someone. It's about what's that version of yourself that you've envisioned. And, you know, I've got a picture of where I'm going in my life and what my remarkable version looks like. And it's about surrounding yourself with people who are headed that direction as well, and are there to support and encourage and give you the kick in the ass you need when you need it. All those pieces are fantastic.
And I think
so one of the things that really drew me to you, Dwayne, was when you talked about the dynamic of relationships, men and women primarily right now, and the energy shifting, and how masculine and feminine energies play, and how there's been a real shift in the dynamic of relationships over the last, maybe decade or so. I wonder if you could touch on that a little bit. I think that information would be really helpful for the viewers that are watching this interview. If you could touch on that and some of your suggestions on how to work with it.
Sure. And it's fundamental. I believe that both men and women know that there's a shift happening. They can feel it. Something's very different in the relationship dynamic. Men can feel it when it doesn't matter if they're single and they're now wanting to get out into the dating world. If they're in a relationship, or they are dating and they're wanting to take it to the next level, or they might be already in a long-term relationship or even marriage, and they're seeing something within whatever dynamic they're in that's shifting, and it's not necessarily a positive thing. They're watching their spouse or they're watching their partner change. But what's happening is women are watching their men flatline. Men are watching their women start to soar. They're starting to rocket. They're doing some amazing things. So when we talk about masculine and feminine energy, a lot of men in particular, and I want to more focus on men in particular for our purposes, simply because women right now, when it comes to personal growth and the deep inner work, women have been more receptive. They've been more open. In fact, you go to any personal growth, self-development seminar, chances are, unless it's about sales or leadership, it will be predominantly women. Any of the soul, heart-centered relationship, soft skills, 95% of that audience is women. What ends up happening, Dan, is they get this insight, they get this bolt of power and awareness and aliveness, and they bring this home to their husbands, their boyfriends, and they want to share this information, and it's not landing. He's got the remote. He's like, "Oh, what was that? Oh, glad you had a good time, hon. Yep. Yep. Huh? Yep. Sounds good." He's totally disconnected. He's up here. She's right here. So if I was to take say if I had a card and I put the letter M on it, and another card and I put the letter F on it, and one represented masculine, one represented feminine, most guys would put the masculine energy next to the dude, and the feminine energy would go next to the woman. However, those energies are shifting and changing so much now. And I want to really stress that as a man, you have both masculine and feminine energy in you. It's always there. It doesn't, when a man is in his feminine, it's not a bad thing. In fact, it's a very good thing. Feminine energy will serve you well, because this is when you're communicating. This is when you're heart-centered. This is when you're nurturing. This is when you're creative. All good things. When you're in your masculine, you are decisive. You are a leader. You're making things happen. You're figuring things out. You're solution-oriented. These are all good things too. But we're in an energy vibration now that's shifting dramatically. If you subscribe to the idea that everything is energy, our world oscillates through frequencies over thousands of years. And it's a big concept to understand, but we've moved out of a vibrational frequency that was masculine dominant, not male dominant, masculine dominant. Masculine energy is fight or flight. A lot of wars, a lot of the oppression, a lot of the deep, thick energy was that masculine frequency that was here for thousands of years. We're now in a feminine vibration. Over the last 100 years, we've been gradually transforming into this feminine vibration. Now, we would think that if this is a feminine vibration, women would be more frilly and more, happy and doing their thing, and men would be feeling this energy of, I got this thing. I'm in my masculine. I can handle it. But it's actually showing up opposite of what we think. Women right now, and you've seen this for the last 30 years, women now are at the top of their game. Enrollment in universities is about 67% female in universities. Right now, like I said at the preamble, at the beginning, men right now are more frustrated, more confused, more challenged as to what it means to be a man than ever before. They don't know how to show up to today's empowered woman. And guys, she should never have to dumb it down or play small to be with you, ever. So women are doing this meteoric rise of awareness and connection and empowerment and knowledge, all these things. And when men are flatlining, these two worlds are colliding. In fact, they can't exist at the trajectory that they're on. It's not working. In fact, 73% of relationships are ending right now because she said so. And the reason being is men are flipping too far into their feminine energy. Not all the way, just a little bit where it takes them out of their authentic masculine, where they become indecisive. They're not showing up in their power. They don't know what to do. And then she ends up having to leave her feminine in order to bring that masculine in because he doesn't have it. So now she becomes bossy. Now she becomes controlling. Now she becomes, a biatch. She doesn't want to be, but that's how she ends up being perceived because she's in her power and he's not. And most guys, Dan, end up becoming just another child that she has to raise. And for a lot of guys, it's just ucky energy. And how do you get out of it? How do you take on that role of being your remarkable man self? It's by identifying in the moment where you're at. What energy are you in right now? And you just deep breathe. It's just, what energy lands for you? Am I more in my feminine energy or am I in my masculine energy? And I want to be very clear here. There's two different types of masculine energy as well. There's the egoic masculine that we're coming out of. This is fight or flight. This is controlling. This is, he's typically unconnected to his emotions. He could be violent. He could be prone to being just probably was a bully. And he also can revert to to the little boy, immature, doesn't know how to deal with his stuff, so he lashes out, slams doors, runs away, or worse, commits a crime or hurts people. Where it serves people well is in the military. That's a very egoic masculine energy, and some corporations where you have to just be kind of militant in your approach. But for the most part, it doesn't serve our world, our planet, doesn't serve humanity. We're moving towards what the authentic masculine is. And that's about 70% in our masculine and about 30% into our feminine. What it ends up helping us do is be heart-centered, so that we can feel and be in touch with our emotion, and we can connect to the divine feminine within her. We can understand where she's coming from. We can take a step back and actually feel what's going on rather than think what's going on. Because when we think, sometimes it just messes everything up. Women are very, very heart-centered, very feeling. And so it's important for us to connect with that as well. But again, you want to be decisive. You want to be taking some of the responsibilities away from her, so that she feels that she doesn't have to carry the masculine all the time. And I want to just leave you with this quick thought, is that if you're in a relationship or you want to be in a relationship, take this as your number one focus. Your job as her champion is to help her move from her masculine energy to her feminine. Help her free up that feminine vibration, that the goddess within her. That's where she longs to be, gentlemen. That's where she just aches to be, in that feminine vibration. Because when she's there, she opens up that part of herself that is sensual. It's erotic, it's juicy, it's delicious. And when you allow her to get there, the feminine energy is wired to give. It's a very giving energy, guys. And when you give her that, this is when guys, if they get it in their heads to be first, if there's a problem, if there's pain between the two of you, be first to come to her emotional rescue and have that space, that rock, so she can feel that masculine energy. And then she just dumps her masculine, brings up that feminine. What ends up happening is you get your cake and eat it too. The feminine gives tenfold in return. And this is where you begin to feel like you're king. A dear friend, Alana Pratt, she calls it the noble badass. You know, just to bring up that noble badass. Yeah. Yeah. And guys, it works like magic. It really does. So we're in interesting times for sure. But if we understand the language of this masculine and feminine energy, it could serve us really well.
No doubt, and it's obvious this is a passion of yours. You've done your research. You know this inside out. You could speak on it for hours, and unfortunately, we don't have hours today to cover. I want to respect your time and not keep you on the call here too long. So, how do people get more information about what you're up to? Where do people go to connect to what you're doing? How do they learn more about the Remarkable Man Project and all the work that you're doing to make a better world?
Thank you, Dan. The first one would be my website, DwayneKlassen.com. And you could also go to the remarkablemanproject.com. And we just launched the Remarkable Man Show podcast. So really excited about that. And of course, that's at theremarkablemanshow.com. That's where you can reach me.
Very cool. So make sure you go check out Dwayne at DwayneKlassen.com. That's DwayneKlassen.com. The Remarkable Man Project. I won't spell that out for you. Or the Remarkable Man Show. Be sure to check out the Remarkable Man Show. I know Dwayne's interviewing some very cool people on that show. It's be a #1 podcast on iTunes and anywhere else that the podcasts are being broadcast. So that's all our time for today. I hope you enjoyed this interview. I know we covered a lot of information, and maybe it's new information to you. So I do truly encourage you to go check out more about what the Remarkable Man Project is. I know, Dwayne, I've heard from you in the past that a lot of your followers are women who are wishing their men would discover it. So ladies, if you're watching this, send your men to the Remarkable Man Project so they can learn more as well. And if you want to get more interviews like this one, make sure you click the button below this video. There's a link on this page somewhere. Enter your name and email, and you'll be kept in the loop of when future interviews are happening. Mentors Masterclass series has a number of mentors from a wide range of industries and experiences, and it's my pleasure to bring those calls to you. That's the end of our interview for today. Dwayne, thank you very much for showing up on the call. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate you coming on and sharing your wisdom with us.
Dan, it was a real pleasure. I really appreciate the container that you're creating here and what it is you're doing to play a bigger game. And you truly are a remarkable man in my world as well. So thank you so much for this opportunity and to be able to speak with your peeps out there.
Thanks very much. Have a great day, Dwayne. Bye, everyone.
All the best, Dan. Cheers.